So Christian Facey from AudioMob will tell us how contextual advertising can save game studios millions. So Christian, you are welcome.
Great to be here, and thank you everyone for attending the talk. So, how contextual advertising can save game studios millions, and I do mean this literally. I'm Christian Facey, the founder of AudioMob. Now, the agenda, we're going to start off with a bit of a background on myself and the company. We'll dive into a little bit of iOS 14 and IDFA as a recap, just to make sure that we're on the same page in terms of what's going on, and we'll describe effects to revenue, both good and bad, and then some contextual solutions to be aware of, followed by some questions. And I know we're a little bit short on time, but no worries, we'll leave at least 10 minutes for the questioning. So my background, so founder of AudioMob, I've worked at Facebook as a science partner, so measuring the true value of ads and how they influence people. Not as creepy as it sounds. Managed $100 million at Google as a strategist, and I am a game developer. This idea of non-intrusive audio ads in games came from a passion of mine developing video games, streaming my own music that I'd make into the games. And then I met Wilfred, an ex-engineer of Google, and we started looking into audio ads as a non-destructive source of incremental revenue, and it's what we're seeing across the board. To give you an idea of what we do here, contextual audio ads, contextual revenue, that's going to be the theme of this presentation. We provide non-intrusive ads.
Whatever job you're searching for, you can find it on LinkedIn. First jobs, flexible jobs.
A rewarded audio ad, which is what you just saw. And of course, we analyze the audio state of the phone as well. So you can know that your players are actually listening to the ad. And even when they mute, there's a prompt to encourage them to unmute for the reward.
ER jobs, Soho jobs, Shoreditch jobs. Keep me away from this.
So it's a little pixelated there, but tap to raise your volume and hear your rewarded ad.
Central line jobs, banking jobs, building jobs. No. So
that's a background on what we do at AudioMob. We're integrated with the likes of Voodoo, Quale, and other major publishers. So to go on to the IDFA and iOS 14 recap. IDFA, an identifier for advertisers, opting out of sharing data will be significantly easier now. I'm sure a lot of you have been plagued by some of these notifications. It's absolutely key for attribution, targeting high-spending users. And what we're seeing across our publishers here is that these changes are making it much more difficult for gaming advertisers to target the whales or the dolphins or whatever you want to call them, the very small percentage of high spending users of which there is an ID that you can bid against, put your ads in front of to bring to your game in order to generate more revenue. So that is being severed, and if you were targeting 100,000 people, that 100,000 audience is now going to shrink to maybe 4,000 to 5,000, maybe 10,000. So, and this is a reflection of the opt-in rates, which vary between 5 to 10% to north of 40. We'll have to wait to see. And what we're seeing is that this will affect mid-core games. So games where there's in-app purchases, where there is an in-game economy, a mid-core game, they're going to be affected slightly more than the eCPMs of a hyper-casual studio. And again, the worst forecast that we've seen is a 90% opt-out forecast. And as any founder or any team, always prepare for the worst and not just hope for the best. So we're encouraging all of our game developing clients to prepare for the worst. So a 90% opt-out, as well as much lower eCPMs, because the attribution will be severed and identifying whales will be much more difficult. Now, when it comes to some of the data affected, the age, gender, interests, and many other variables that rely on personal data, it's going to be affected. Now, it's not going to totally go away. There will be still some users that will opt in, Some publishers we've spoken to, the opt-in rate's been very high, others very, very low. But you should be preparing for the fact that the users that you're going to target and the data that you can use in order to help advertisers, generate their revenues and justify those eCPMs will get worse in one way or another. Great. So we've covered, a very brief IDFA and iOS 14 recap. We know that it's not really going to make the situation any better. And while you could capitalize on how to sustain your current strands of revenue using the methods that you are familiar with in display and video advertising, which you should absolutely do, what we're doing and many other innovative companies are doing is encouraging a more holistic view. In times of economic peril, whether it's COVID or perhaps the changes that Apple's making, you need to capitalize on where you mostly make money and then experiment with other solutions to diversify your revenue. And it's not just about the format, it's about the data, which is why we're showing you number 8. And you may have seen myself and Emma from number 8 on a panel yesterday. Number 8 is what we call a next generation form of contextual advertising. They are cutting edge. They're cutting edge on-device AI, and they provide new contextual signals which yield much higher CPMs for brand advertisers. And the reason that we're going to be partnering with them is that contextual advertising that is backed by brands rather than gaming advertisers looking for an install. These will be brands looking just to get their ads in front of the, broadly speaking, right user in the right contextual environment. For an example, Nike advertising sports shoes to a user playing a sports game rather than a user of a specific age at a specific location. Brand advertisers are clawing to get into the gaming space. And number 8 can provide very interesting segments, such as, whether the user's indoor, outdoor, at the gym, working. And these kind of solutions based on non-personal data can act as a cushion to the lower CPMs you will eventually experience as a result of iOS 14 and IDFA changes. So it's not just about the format, it is about the data. And I highly encourage you, whether you use AudioMob or not, to definitely look at contextual advertising and how your current solutions as well are using contextual advertising to combat the changes in the current environment. Now, when it comes to AudioMob and delivery, this is another really important aspect. So we've got the data described, contextual advertising, contextual data used to pad and increase your eCPMs. But then this video will give you an idea of the delivery, because it's not just about the data, it's how the user perceives the ad that they are being presented with. Because again, diversifying your revenue and testing new formats along with new data segments such as contextual advertising, it will be really key to defend your revenues. So here's the video.
Hello, I'm Tim Brewer. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Night Impact. We specialize in creating games for television franchises. Our most recent release has been Big Brother the Game. With this game, we wanted to look to the future of AudioMob. It's something new.
With no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, banking with Capital One is like...
Players who would watch an ad for the in-game currency, they'll prefer audio ads. They're pleasantly surprised they can continue playing and be able to get a reward for it. The AudioMob plugin is, as Unity plugins should be, import, initialize, and go. Compared to banner and interstitial, the audio ads sit into a quite high value eCPM. That's the really positive aspect, that the audience can continue playing while the eCPM remains high. AudioMob is pretty IDFA resistant. The targeting is different. The ads don't require as much tracking, which is good because it's one network that'll be pretty resilient to the changes coming in iOS 14 for a mid to hardcore category game. In terms of what we see, is that these engaged users who prefer not to pay for in-app purchases will go, and listen to a lot of audio ads in a row, which increases the engagement. They get more out of, say, 5 minutes spent in the game than they would without having an audio ad on. This is a shift in how ads will happen in the next year. I think we're going to see more audio ads, and AudioMob has been great at helping us get this up and running very quickly.
So, as Finn was saying from Big Brother the game, a very IAP heavy mid-core or even hardcore game. If you want to mitigate any risks against revenue loss because of IDFA and iOS 14 changes, then you have to look for new signals, new data, and an effective format to deliver them. Audio advertisers, they buy on context. They use data like game genre, game type, the app ID rather than the device ID, as well as audio intent signals. We see a banner CPM increase of 600%, 600% CPM increase, and there are no damages to retention. In this game, specifically the Big Brother game, 7-day retention actually increased by 0.5% alongside the revenue uplift. So, and this is the constant theme here. It's that contextual advertising really can be an amazingly effective cushion to mitigate against those eCPM drops that you may get from your performance-based video advertising. And when it comes to the buyers as well, it's not just game studios that are now entering the mobile space and paying competitive CPMs. We work with clients like Disney, Coca-Cola, Group M, who are the biggest advertising agency in the world, trading $50 billion in ad spend. Amazon. These buyers, they want advanced privacy compliant data, and contextual data is a key to getting a spend from these kinds of brand clients. And it's all about the data and delivery. There's next generation methods of contextual location data. I've signed too many NDAs. I can't reveal that yet. There's solutions like AudioMob in terms of delivering this contextually safe ad format non-intrusively, so it doesn't damage retention. There's number 8. Amazing contextual advertising partner that can help you generate these contextual signals that advertisers care about. And then there's other delivery solutions like Instramatic, voice activated ads, and we'll be looking to partner with them in the future. So the idea is, the last thing I'll leave you with is that even if you choose not to use AudioMob, we hope you do, there are so many different contextual based advertising solutions that you can use in order to pad and mitigate any risks against revenue loss. So thank you for listening, and I welcome any questions that you have.
Yeah, thanks. This is time for questions now. So the first one is from Devansh. How are the eCPM of this type of ads, and how is the targeting done?
So the CPMs, they range from $5 to $10 at the start, and as your game becomes more familiar with the brands and the advertisers, we've seen CPMs as high as $40. And this is for the banners, which usually get between 10 cents and $1. So we're talking about a significant increase here. In terms of how the advertising is done, it is all based around context. So for instance, let's take an example, Coca-Cola, a well-known drinks brand. They want to get in front of a game which generally has a user base that is above 18. So the Big Brother game, for instance, a user has to pay to enter. They have to be 18 to enter. And it's a very well-known TV IP. So the Coca-Cola, the brand, would pay a much higher CPM because they want their brand to appear within the Big Brother game. And we've seen other brands do exactly this in terms of Amazon, McDonald's, etc. And this is how they target based on branding, not so much based on performance, clicks, and installs.
Alexander is asking, do you only support Unity or custom engines as well?
So right now, we only support Unity. But as of Q1 next year, we are scheduling a more general SDK due to demand for the product.
Benz is asking, how ethical is it to base the ads on voice activity? Wouldn't that mean that the phone or ad is constantly listening to the user?
I'm really, really glad you've said that. And AudioMob, we've raised millions in investments now throughout COVID, which was, hard to raise considering it was COVID. But the idea is that we have invested so much time in research and development, not just to benefit the advertiser or revenues for the game developer, but the end user as well. So an example would be frequency capping. We don't want to put in 5 ads every 10 minutes. We recommend a frequency cap of a 5-minute session of between 1 and 2. Usually it'll be 1, and then we grow it to 2. We let the developer choose this. Also, there's rewarded ads as well. So if a developer, for instance, Voodoo wants to use automatically triggered ads, so it might be a 1 automatically triggered ad per session after the user has installed the game for the first time, or rewarded audio, where it's user triggered audio. So the reason that the users in the Big Brother game listen to lots of audio ads is that they want to in order to get currency. So we're not about forcing the ads onto the user, which is why we've generated and we encourage the rewarded mechanism. So we really have thought about the ethics here, so we don't damage, retention.
And the next question, also from Benz, would it be possible to make these types of advertisements accessible for deaf people as well? For example, would adding some sort of subtitles to these advertisements still be effective?
I'm really glad you've mentioned that. And this is something we're definitely thinking about. We have yet to get a publisher that specifically wants this requirement, but we do have the ability to add subtitles if it's needed, and it's on our roadmap. The first kind of accessibility-oriented game was a game from Rising Pixel, and it's a game for blind people. So rather than getting lots of blind players to pay, £9.99 for an app, most people don't pay that much to download an app. They've produced a freemium model with the audio ads instead. So yeah, we do think about accessibility, and that's definitely something we could do with the subtitles.
Okay, nice. From Sai, what is the difference of CPM and fill rates for a rectangle and square companion banner AudioMob ads?
Really good question. So the square ads get significantly higher fill. We wouldn't recommend at this point in time using rectangular ads. And the fill is north of 90% in tier 1 territories. If it's a case that you don't want to use the square banner, and some developers such as Miniclip are more sensitive of using banners, which is why they don't use them, we also have an audio only ad format as well. And it's eCPMs and the CPMs that I've mentioned, the $5 to $10 and above. The banners from a advertiser's perspective are nice to have, so they don't change if the banners aren't there. So you can include an audio only ad where there's a little icon with a mute button, and that counts down the ad, so it's less intrusive.
And Mert asks, how do you figure the audio ads being successful in hyper casual genre, since usually people play the games with no sound?
I love getting this question because the reason that we raised millions of dollars, and there's going to be another announcement actually next week of a very large advertising tech company that's investing in us, is that is the biggest assumption, which is partly true. A lot of users, they mute the game. However, the audio state of the phone is actually on. So you may mute the game, but maybe the iPhone mute switch is up, for instance, or the fact that the user is listening to Spotify or something in the background. And AudioMob are experts in analyzing the audio state of the phone and passing the signals back to the advertisers to bid on. And that's what the audio advertisers really are paying for. And we've done a lot of research as well. We've asked thousands of users. We have our own DSP where we've done live testing before presenting our plugin to developers. And we know that 61% of 18 to 24-year-olds listen to music while playing the game, and over half of general users actually have their phone on. So when they opt into an audio ad, we already know the phone that the phone where the audio is on, and this is why we're seeing fill rates of up to 90%, and how we're able to add quite a lot of revenue to many large studios, such as your Voodoos, your Qualies of the world, etc.
Okay, and I think the time for the last question in this slot from Devonch. How's the difference in tier 3 countries?
It's a great question. And the tier 3 countries that we're seeing right now, the fill rates are around 60 to 70%. And depending on, what you deem to be, a tier 3, whether that's, certain parts of like India, for instance, or Africa, we are seeing high enough fill to justify the integration. And again, while the CPMs are lower, we're not talking $10, $20. The average is between around 450 to 500% higher than what you would get within that geo. And when we have started expanding in tier 3 countries as well.
Okay, thanks, Christian. It was brilliant. It was really interesting. So I think for now we will have the next panel discussion. And thank you very much again.
Thanks for having me. Thank you, everyone. Take care.